Well, good evening and welcome to a special edition of Moen After Dark. I am, of course, Moen. To my side is my co host, Immaculate. We've only got him here for about half an hour. He's going to run out and see one of the best movies of the year, Dune Part 2. And then I'm going to be joined later on by our friends from the Big West Mafia, Sergeant Pickles and Becky Goetsky, to finish out. But this is y'all's show, as you know. We're going to let you sound off here. But we will let Immaculate get his out first because he's on limited time and I want to make sure he gets his opinion out there.
All right, so what do we want to get into first? I got two big ones today that I've been kind of going off on. The Nebraska situation, and then, of course, what most people care about is going to be the CFP situation. Have you been following both?
Yeah, I saw Trev Alberts, what a great job Nebraska was. They're really digging up the media clips now and how much he talked up Nebraska.
It's a really bad situation right there. I mean, they've not replaced their president yet. Accordingly, he was having saying that and wanted it done, and they didn't get it done, and it's part of why he's leaving. I mean, we're talking about an alma mater. The guy graduated from there. He played there. Like, this isn't just, going to another job. This is leaving his everything behind over this situation. So it had to have been ugly, and things have got to be looking ugly there right now. So, I posed the question to people, and I think if you're Coach Rule, and that's the situation there, and the two guys that you connected with are both gone, and in this type of manner, does he want to stay? I don't know. I think that, the Texas A&M are the kings of paying money and doing stupid things with money. How much would it cost for them to buy out Elko? Do you have any inkling on that?
I have no idea, but it's not only buying out Elko, they'd have to buy out whatever Rule's buyout is at Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But when we saw how much they spent for Jimbo, I don't know how much they got sitting around and people who can get it, but Elko was not the guy they wanted. They wanted Stoops, but then there was some scandal or something that just...
I know there were pushback among the boosters against Mark Stoops.
Mm-hmm. And then, after that, the AD, he left. He's at Ohio State. So that whole, with the new AD coming in, they tend to want their own guy. Not all the time, but it tends to happen. So watch for that. And if that happens right before spring football, I don't know. What do you do then? Maybe you take Elko and just put him as an interim tag. But watch that situation. I don't think that this is the end of it with that AD. So we'll see how that plays out. But in terms of the CFP, guys, this is making a lot of sense. This 5+9, which is really just the 12-team tournament, adding 2 more schools, getting a little more money. It's certainly much less complicated. And as we've seen, the whole talk was that this was being socialized, which basically means that there was a semi-public negotiation going on between all the parties. They had a narrow amount of time to do this in, so where a lot of your conversation between parties would be going on, that all had to kind of all happen at once. So, they had no contract. They had nothing for payouts. They had nothing for voting rights. They had to create this thing from scratch in a short amount of time. And so that's what I think we saw. We saw payouts getting worked out. We saw voting rights getting worked out. And they were using some language that maybe didn't exactly mean what we thought it meant. When we're talking about 4AQs and what that was and the percentages, those came right down the line with pretty much the same as now what we're hearing, which is 58% pay for the Big and SEC. So here we are at this point. We're probably going to get ourselves a much more simple expansion, 5+9. You're still going to have all of your conference championship games, which we told you, those are important to these conferences. Don't expect them to just scrap them. This will not scrap those. This will keep those. And the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC will all still have their automatic qualifiers coming in for their conference champions. So those will maintain their value and more going on in the future. Expect maybe to hear more about that in the future. I think that this 5+9 is probably a temporary stopgap, but it gets all the networks what they want. They know what they're going to be bidding for. So hopefully, Moen, I don't know what you think, but I think this might start to get things moving.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind this is from Ross Dellenger at Yahoo Sports.
Mhm.
This isn't set in stone yet, but he's been pretty spot on so far. So I'd say it has a good chance of passing. Revenue distribution's taken care of. That was the big elephant in the room, no pun intended, to Alabama. And now that that's out of the way, they can get down to the real business of it. I think this was a very good deal for the Big Ten and the SEC. I think it was also a good deal for the Big 12.
I do too.
You know, the only thing I think who really got hurt in all this is the ACC. I think this puts more and more pressure on that conference. It's already under extreme pressure.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help their situation. I think the biggest losers in this, I'm going to be honest, and I know we're going to probably have some viewers who are from there, Oregon State and Washington State. This is now they're seeing the coalescing of basically the others moving on. They're going to have to get it figured out where they're going to go, if it's going to be ACC or Big 12, how that's going to happen. Maybe when we have more movement, maybe then, I don't know. It was one of those situations where I thought they might go early on just to kind of keep there from being a PAC lawsuit, to keep there from having to be all this problem that we just had. That didn't happen, and we went through all the problems. So their leverage is a little bit light right now. In terms of the Big 12, I don't quite understand. I mean, I know some people are looking at this going, this isn't the best. I guess they wanted their 2AQ spots that they're pushing for. But guys, that includes, like, you get 1 AQ right now. You're champion. So you're only getting one more. I think it shouldn't be too hard for you guys to get at least one more in through an at-large, if not 2. So I don't see why in a 14-team league that the Big 12 isn't looking to get 3 teams in. That's just me. And people can have their own opinion on that as much as they want. I don't see this as a bad thing. I think that this is just as good. And big and here, you guys keep your championship game. The way that was looking, the way they were talking, I was wondering if the Big 12 and the ACC were going to lose their championship games. Yeah, that's a pretty good chunk of money. So I think that this is probably a win across the board. I don't see who a loser is in this. Maybe not even Washington State and Oregon State, because the other ideas weren't any good for them either. There was less at large. At least with this, There's more at large. So there's probably a better chance for them to get into. I think that this passes quick.
And quick. even if they end up going down to G5, they're going to be probably
they're going to be killing
constantly be in the top 1 or 2 of that G5
yeah. Race, and they're going to get a boost in the rankings over what most G5 teams would get.
Yeah. But I think Brett Yormark was very smart. He's got the look-in clause. I think he knows that with this additional pressure exerted on the ACC, they're probably going to pick up some more teams. He can go back to the negotiating table in 2028 and say, look, we've added these markets. Mm-hmm. The revenue distribution needs to favor us a little more. There's probably still not going to get as much as the Big Ten or the SEC, but it favors them a little more. The ACC will get favored a little less because, like you said, they'll probably have to backfill once they lose certain markets. And they're just simply not going to have the strength to get where they need to be. Now, the big question to me that I have yet to see answered is, how does Notre Dame fit into all this? Do they get an ACC cut? According to Ross Dellenger, they get cut with the G5 schools.
Yeah.
I've also seen reporting that says, hey, they get cut as an ACC member.
I would say for now, since they're playing football as an Indy, they get an Indy cut. All they have with the ACC in football is a scheduling arrangement. That's it. So they are not an ACC football team. They should not get an ACC payout. The ACC right now needs to worry about SMU. We know for 24-25 they're not getting that cut. Maybe that gets worked out. But are they getting the full cut in 26? I don't know. I mean, what we also have heard is that they are not going to agree upon a unanimous voting clause, which means we don't know exactly how that's going to play out. But this whole one vote holds up the entire process thing doesn't sound like that's going forward anymore.
Right.
So maybe that then allows SMU to get the full pay. I don't know. I mean, if it was just one party that was blocking it, then they probably do. If it was multiple parties that didn't want to see it happen, then maybe they don't. I don't know. So there's still some details to play out in this. But yeah, I don't think that this is terrible. I think this is probably the best solution we could possibly have gotten. Like, we all like the 12. We want to see at least, how it's going to play out. This is just adding 2 more teams to that. We're not having to worry about, who's got how many AQs, and like the nonsense is gone. Yes, that was how they were talking. That was like their code language for how they were talking payouts and how they were talking voting. But so I don't know. I'm relieved. I thought that if they tried to push any of those other cute ideas, that it was just kind of going to go down in flames.
Yeah, we're at least making progress. Let's get to some comments and say hello to some people. We've got 50 people watching us right now. If y'all could, go ahead and smash that like button for us. It helps us in the YouTube algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. If you want to leave a super chat, those get answered immediately. If you want to become a member, you get access to Wild Ute University, and that'll be the last I talk about it this hour. Let's get right down to it. Jan Hulk is here from Slovenia. Hey, all. Good to see you, Jan.
Yes.
Conundrum. It's only cash. Now let's talk AQ, shall we? That's where we're at. Antoine Codes, popcorn ready for the show. I'm hoping the 5+9 model sticks. As a new Big 12 fan, we can't complain about the distribution model. The Big 12 needs to show up on the field. I think Brett Yormark knows that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I saw from a lot of Big 12 people, is that the AQs shouldn't be like, you should get there by playing there. Well, that's what it's going to be. I think the Big 12 can get 3 teams in there, no problem. More than that, it'd have to be a really good year. And I don't know if there's going to be enough cross-conference competition anymore in the future to really push that. But, I mean, if you get 3 teams in there, you're pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
Keep things in mind. Like, yeah, you're not as good as the Big 10, the SEC, but you're still pretty good. Like, you're going to be making more money than you ever made before. You just have to find a way to be competitive with that.
And we talked about it briefly on last night's show with Nate and Wild Youth, that adding more East Coast schools, possibly through the ACC, gives the Big 12 additional visibility.
Oh, yeah.
So that's also going to boost the opportunity to get more teams in. East Coast voters will be able to see that and say, hey, Utah's the real deal, or hey, Kansas is the real deal, hey, Texas Tech is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're going to have a lot of visibility. They're going to have a lot of good games, and I think we're going to actually see them on TV more than maybe some folks give them credit for.
Daniel Gygax says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Daniel. Joaquin Morales, greeting TCFM fam. Don't forget to smash that like button. Let's go. Yes, smash that like button. Preseason champs OHIO, spot on. Brett Yormark is ready for the challenge to earn more. There will be a look-in coming in 2028, and it can also be triggered by any conference realignment. Opportunities for all. I agree with you 100%.
Oh, yeah.
RFR Max in the house. Good to see you. Jared Jones, a fellow Buckeye. Hola, amigos. The Ohio State coach going to the rival with some pretty big news, too. He hasn't done shit since J.K. Dobbins, so.
Kind of sound like he was getting cut loose, and so kind of to stick it back to them, he's going to go coach for the big rival.
Yeah, but you got to remember when Ryan Day took over, he poached a coach from that team as well. So he poached Al Washington.
A little back and forth, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. That Nebraska thing threw me for a loop, and the football team got 5-star Rayola. Yeah, for now.
But that's the thing too, is like they got him, but the rest of his recruiting's been kind of mediocre, like good, but not outstanding. And with that kid, he's going to have to play him as a freshman and continue to play him. He's stuck with him. I I think that I don't know of anything good to say about this situation for Rule right now in Nebraska. When that's the case, as far as we know, he may have already talked and figured it out. Like it may already be being in the works quietly behind the scenes. We don't know, but keep your eyes on it.
Carla Jenkins, good to see you, Carla. That Nebraska thing threw me for a loop, and the football team got 5-star Raiola. We just talked about that. I reread it. I just wanted to say that Raiola has had a troubled recruiting, to say the least. He's been all over the place. I can't wait to see where he transfers to next year. And then she follows it up as we shall not speak of that traitor's name regarding the Ohio State coach.
Nice. Okay.
Elko buyout is $6.5 million.
That's nothing. Nothing for Texas A&M. They'll go spout another oil spigot somewhere, and they'll get that. That's no problem.
Conundrum: Yormark and Phillips consider yourselves socialized. LOL.
Ouch.
Joe coming back. If Brett Yarmark agreed to that revenue model, he did not do much. I think he got his ass. He got his ass.
Two things that I've seen. One, he's getting the look in because he's expecting expansion. I think that's more important to him than fighting over a few little things here and there in this situation. And I guess he was a big proponent for getting the NCAA basketball tournament expanded, which I would also say I think that that's part of some wheeling and dealing going on with the NCAA right now. So Brett Yormark might actually be a main guy in helping get that worked out. And if he helps to get the AQ, the Autonomous Conferences situation going, then he's an MVP in my book.
Terry Kane, the money part is not fair. Well, it's not. But,
No.
I mean, it's unfortunate that the Big Ten, you have to look at it this way. The Big Ten and the SEC made moves off the field to make them the most valuable brands in college football. The more value you have, the more revenue you can demand. The SEC added Oklahoma and Texas. The Big Ten added Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. It is what it is. I mean, it's not fair. You're not going to get parity. Those days are done.
They're not charities.
Yeah. It's a money game, for sure. This is to RRFR Mac from Carla Jenkins. They've reported SEC and Big Ten get 58%, ACC and Big 12 get 31%, and if I'm correct, the ACC gets a little more than the Big 12 gets. I think they end up with like
that's the
7.
projections.
Yeah,
and that's based upon that, like the 58% is based. There's two kinds of payouts. There's the lump sum that goes to the conferences.
Right.
And then there's the participatory payout. And so when you've seen the numbers where the ACC is slightly more than the Big 12, that's based upon past participation. And because of Clemson, that's highly skewed to the ACC. It's just one has to ask yourself, how do you think that'll go in the future? Will the Big 12 or the ACC get more at-larges in this tournament? Whoever does that will end up getting more of the participation money. And I would put my money on the Big 12. We'll see.
Terry Kane agrees it's not a win for the ACC. I agree with you.
It's probably the best that you could have.
You're negotiating from a place of no strength. I mean, he was dealt a 7-2 offsuit, and he has to be in the hand. He's pot committed. What are you going to do?
And their position would have been strengthened if Florida State got in. So all these reports that maybe some ACC officials actually were okay with Alabama replacing them, I think they might be regretting that right now.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like the AC, this is from Joe, looks like the ACC and Big 12 wrote over and said, are you sure you don't want more? Again, I think we'll have to wait and see how this all pans out and find out the real story of what happened in the room. but I think everybody got an ask. I don't think the Big Ten and SEC got everything they wanted without having to give something up. For your market, it was the look in, the expanded CFB, basketball playoff. For Jim Phillips, I don't know. Maybe for Jim Phillips, it's an agreement to give ACC full college football playoff shares. Maybe it's an agreement to not, support more teams leaving. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how that all plays out.
If fans thought that when this started that they were going to maintain what was going on in the previous contract, kind of set yourselves up for this, because that just was not going to happen. And especially when we saw all the problems of the voting going on the board, which I don't hold it against anyone who was doing what they had to. Strategically, they were doing what they had to do. But that means that's what people were saying. You get, okay, watch what happens in 26. That they're not going to keep a system that allows that to continue to happen. So voting wise and then payout wise, I mean, this was known that it was going to be this way. Everyone in the Big 12 knew it. The ACC knew it. With that being a known factor, I think they did pretty good. To get this to where you're just adding 2 new teams, there's the looking in the future, and he's getting an expanded NCAA tournament where the Big 12 tends to get more teams in. I think things are going okay for the Big 12 right now. I would hope that fans of that conference would be happy with what Yormark is doing.
Right. It's like the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need.
Yeah, that's a good one for this especially.
Go Black 45. Good to see you, Go Black. Immaculate, you know darn well Cal, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, UVA will push for Notre Dame to get a full ACC share.
I mean, he might be right. They might. I don't know all of the internal, workings of those schools who are going to be behind and trying to get Notre Dame to say yes and come join them afterwards. Could be right. Will they succeed in that? I tend to think not. I think Indy just more like they care more about access than they do the money. Like they want as much as they can get, but they just want to make sure that they're going to have access, and it's going to be good access. So, they'll take what they get.
Sergeant Pickles says in the article, I thought I saw Notre Dame gets a flat 10 million, and then preseason quotes the actual article. The remaining amount, roughly 10%, will be distributed to Notre Dame and the 64 group of 5 teams. But it doesn't say that they're going to evenly divide that 10%. It's saying Notre Dame and the 64. Notre Dame could take a full 2% of that and leave the other 8% to be divided among the 64 group of 5 teams.
The word I saw was that most of the pushback on this whole situation was the group of 5, because they're just getting a nominal small increase in total, which, I mean, still is pretty good. But so that's who was holding up things the most. So I think that's probably mainly why they're going to get the vote passed on this, because that's going to be a lot easier to get passed for them, because at least this way with the at-larges, they have a chance.
Yeah, I cannot believe that Notre Dame would accept that and give you, because Notre Dame has their own vote in this. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine that Notre Dame would acquiesce to receiving a share that small.
They have their own vote for things 24-25, but in this, they don't have like a vote that holds things up. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Until they determine the new governance rules.
Yeah, like they can't really hold things up together. They'd have to work with like an alliance of votes to get things held up. And, if they got the Big 12 and ACC on board, G5, there's really nothing Notre Dame can do to stop this on this type of vote. This isn't a unanimous type of vote. This is probably just a simple majority or just to sign on. Like they'll create something. It's like you sign on or you don't. If you want to leave and not be part of it, go ahead. This is a private enterprise. So that they really don't have a whole lot of pull in this, in my opinion.
Terry Kane can't show up on the field when the big boys can afford all the best players. I would disagree with you, simply because NIL is going to take care of some of that. I know Miami outbid Ohio State for players this cycle. They got a
Mhm.
5-star defensive tackle to decommit from Ohio State by offering him more money. So it's not like these schools don't have NIL and boosters to back the NIL. Now they're going to fall behind in facilities. They're going to fall behind in other sports because there's not going to be the same amount of funding available.
Miami
But I
doesn't have to
don't.
worry about that though. They don't even have their own stadium to keep up.
Well,
So
that's
actually,
true.
Miami's probably going to get ahead of everyone else in the ACC because they're not having that massive expenditure coming at them.
Right. But you're going to have boosters that are always going to help you buy the best players. Now it's out in the open through NIL collectives. Jose has joined us. 5 plus 9 does make more sense for the EA CFB 25 game.
That'll definitely be a lot more fun for folks in that to have all those at-large spots versus having to see some complicated thing with AQs from each conference. And then, yeah, I agree with them 100%. It's a lot better for folks who are looking forward to that game.
Jose, going to 10 conference games would cause Big to cannibalize self and lose playoff spots without AQs. You're right. They would also end up having to schedule more cupcakes.
But this is where people need to kind of keep the whole big picture in mind. Like when they think that the Big Ten, when they expand, they're just going to expand with big name programs. No, they're not. And that's one of the reasons why. Is you got to give your scheduling department some leeway to work this situation so that you aren't scheduling yourself out of that type of a postseason. So, when you look at dare I say it, I don't have my drink ready, but a GT and what they bring and then what they're not in football, that's okay. You don't necessarily need every team to come in there and blow everyone out of the water because you just start knocking yourself out of the postseason. So, I don't think so. I think 10 conference games is where you get paid even more.
Scott Schrader letting us know Trev Albert's buyout is only $4.1 million.
So far we're only looking at 10 million. I think that leaves plenty of money there for Texas A&M.
Well, we don't know what the buyout for Matt Rule is.
That's what I'm saying. Like if there's only 6 and 4 at 10 million total so far of 2 of the 3 pieces, that leaves a lot of room to go after Rule. I mean, what's it going to be?
I don't think they can go after him for this season.
Is there a rule against it?
I don't know that there's necessarily a rule against it. I just don't think it's possible with spring football starting up. You've got Elko in there. You got Rule in there at Nebraska. I don't think either one of them's going to – I don't think Rule would take the job. Let me put it that way. Not this season.
Not under normal situations, no. But when you're at a school where all of a sudden now you don't have there's no AD, there's no president, which means there's no one there to hire the next AD who would be his guy. Like that's a really bad situation.
And I understand Texas A&M is probably the most dysfunctional football program in college football, but I can't even imagine them giving a job to a guy in January and then moving on from him in March.
I could. It's a different regime in there. I know, I get it. I think, the whole argument is that he wouldn't want to do that to his players and leave them in lurch like that. But here's the thing, man. If it worked, Elko is likely the guy that Nebraska would have to tab to come in on an interim tag and take over there. So it would probably just end up being a swap. Not directly done that way, but realistic because there isn't much time. Like there's no time. So does it happen this year? Maybe not. Maybe next year. But I think that they're already talking about it. I mean, I think they would have talked about it before they even hired him. I think it's part of the value for them getting Trev. I mean, I'm everyone talks highly about him, but come on, there's other good ADs. What sets this guy apart from everyone else? I would say it's because it's his connection to this coach Rule, who has a huge history in the state of Texas and could come in there and do well. And at this time right now, with 24 and 25 and getting in there and winning those, I dare say that might push him to do some things that never done before. Like you have him there this year so that way he could be competitive for 25. Because after that, you don't know.
Rock Chalk, voting rights are worth more than cash in this case.
Yeah, because you can change the situation after the fact. Like once you get the voting rights figured out, all the rest that was decided before then could possibly be changed. So
Sergeant Pickles, his old boss was an A&M grad, literally had a master's in petroleum technology. Well,
yeah, that school is literally sitting on oil. Like the amount of money that they have coming in from that, they just throw it around. Plus, they got the big donors who will also throw money around. So they're just pretty gross in that regard. But they are what they are.
preseason champions, let him expand basketball if he wants. No big, what the Big Ten needs to do is invest in basketball.
They will eventually.
We have too many damn good brands that are just not adhering to the quality of basketball we need. Indiana's been down, Michigan State's been down. They need to put some money into those programs to get it straightened out.
I think they will. I think they'll get back to that. Just right now, they've kind of all had to focus on football and becoming a national conference, not just a Midwest conference. The Big Ten, we both know it. The Big Ten, most of them, besides Ohio State, really have not given a damn about what the rest of the country thinks or about how they play or how it goes. Just didn't care. That seems to have changed, and that focus from the athletic departments on football has probably caused a little bit of a drop in focus and funding for basketball. But I think once they get this new money coming in, they'll start to throw more towards basketball.
Sounds good. And we want to welcome someone else to the stage here. This is Sergeant Pickles from the Big West Mafia show that airs Mondays at 8 p.m. here on the College Football Mafia Network. How's it going, Pickles?
Another beautiful day, and coming up on St. Patrick's Day, got me a nice can of Smithwick's, and I got my Guinness jersey in the background.
Okay. We'll allow it.
I got no drink for me. I got to drive after this, so
yep.
No drinking day for me.
Bless the maker and his water.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on everything that went down today? You're a fellow Big Ten now, so I'm sure we're all gonna catch shit tonight. I've already accepted that. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a Big Ten panel pontificating on a primarily Big 12 channel. That should be interesting, but. I'm surprised it kind of went through without really it seemed much pushback. I mean, yeah, they protested about the payouts and everything, but I'm surprised Yormark in particular didn't put up a bigger fight, because I get that his whole angle is, taking bites at the margins and being clever and kind of picking and choosing when he takes his shots. But this to me felt like he's really conceding that the Big 12 has to rely on other sources than the CFP to close that gap, which that should be his objective, is to close the gap as much as possible. And I don't think he sees the CFP as a way for him to do it.
I think that's what he's said all along. I mean, that's why he was going after Mexico. That's why he's doing some of the things he's doing. He said that they need to find other ways to monetize. So yeah, this is right along the lines with what he's been saying his strategy would be. I just think, some folks had certain hopes going into this, and that's understandable and to be expected. And I think that what they're getting out of this is reasonable in regards to what people's expectations were going in.
Very good. I like this. Friends call me Sean. Moen after dark twice a week. Nice. Cheers.
Special week.
Then Rock Chalk says, I sent my girl her friend home before a thunderstorm so I could watch without her. Don't tell her. You just announced it publicly on a stream with 75 people, brother.
And she knows what you're watching.
Yeah, and this video will probably have 700 views tomorrow, so you might want to keep it a little more on the down low.
It's too late. We can't erase it now.
Hidden Hawaiian, love that name. The look-in was the best thing Yormark could do. I agree.
Absolutely agree.
Yep.
And that's a tell-all. Like, that's where he's putting his effort. Who knows what he's doing behind the scenes to kind of egg that situation on. I think that he knows, like, if he gets 4 schools from the East and you add that to Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, and BYU, all of that is addition after the TV rights were agreed upon, the last TV deal. So I think he has to sit with that type of an expansion and knowing that he can get a better deal. He can get a renegotiation. So to me, that's smart. Go after that. That's bigger money than fighting over a little chunk here or there off of the CFP.
Yeah. Flexibility is for sure the thing he needs most.
Right. Joaquin Morales has some thoughts. CFP should have stayed at 12, 5 AQs, 7 at larges, or go straight to 16. Conference champ and runner up 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, and 7 at large.
See, the problem is, well, we still don't know in terms of the 14. Is will there be any buys? What they've done is keep the AQs for the conference championship game winners, so that way there's still some value in that. But the buys were a big part of that value with 12. So at 14, we might still see them have a couple of those. We don't know yet. At 16, there are none. It just doesn't work. You can't create without it being like, I've only seen one where they're like 2 buys.
Yeah.
It goes an extra round if you do.
Yeah, like you'd have like
model.
It's and that's I don't think they want to get that complicated, because then now you're taking out your best teams out of 2 weeks. Like the value actually starts to lower your value of what you're offering to the network. So they're right now they're in between that part where they're going from a 12 team one that really works and trying to add in more, getting close to a point where it actually does not work. So like I said, I think this is a good stopgap, but I don't think this is going to be the end of it.
Right. And now joining us, Sergeant Pickles' partner in crime, it's Becky Go Huskies from the Big West Mafia podcast. Airs every Monday at 8 p.m. right here on College Football Mafia. Hey, Becky, how you doing today?
Good. How are you today, Moen?
We're doing all right. What are your thoughts as a newly minted big member on this college football playoff announcement?
Well, no offense to the members that are going to the Big 12, but I think we chose right.
Okay, Becky's going right into it with catching shit tonight. So
that's messed up.
that was Becky that said that. Let's keep that in mind, folks.
I mean, come on. Who wouldn't be excited about it?
No, it's fine to be excited about as a fan of the Big Ten. And I don't think that this is a bad situation for the Big 12 either, though. I think that they're going to actually have their chance now to play in. You know, with the AQ situation, that was going to be closing the door on some folks. So I think this should be a good day for everyone. You know, it's not an equal, fair day, but dare I say it's a good day.
Rock Chalk, until Notre Dame joins the Big, the playing field between the Big and the SEC and Big 12 is relatively even. I don't disagree with you, because it was just last year the Big 12 runner-up beat the undefeated Big 10 champion. TCU knocked off Michigan. Now, they didn't do too well against Georgia, but they did have a win over the undefeated Big 10 champion. That's something Ohio State hasn't been able to do the last 3 years, as much as it vexes me.
Very vexed.
Very vexed.
I've already I got canceled by Mr. Monkey Says, so I've got no opinion on this now.
You walked right into that. You're just like, well, let me catch all of this.
Yeah, the Big 12 fans are going to have it in for you now.
Ryan Willie with a super chat. Thank you, Ryan. Just go to 16.
I mean, like I said,
it makes sense.
I mean, to a fan perspective, it makes a lot of sense. To these conferences and the business perspective, not as much as you might think. If whatever your gains you're going to make in doing that, if you're losing that same value or more from your conference championship game, which is already baked into their own internal TV network deals, it's not a win, maybe not a loss, but it's definitely not a win. And now you have to renegotiate your own deals with the networks too. So I think that's what we're seeing truly was saved in this. And that's not just for the Big Ten and the SEC, but that's for the Big 12 and ACC too. Their championship games remain valuable as well because of this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go to 24. I want the
24.
FCS model. I want the FCS model. Like if the FCS can do it, I don't know why the FBS can't.
I can tell
FCS
you
can
why.
do it because they're actually friends and we are not.
Yeah.
And the SGS can do it because no one's paying attention. No one's looking at how many games those players are playing, like the ones that go through that whole thing.
FCS is what college football used to be, where it's about the school and all the players are full in. I'm a Montana fan. I love watching FCS playoffs because those kids, you don't really see opt-outs. You don't see any of that garbage.
Different.
It's very different, and I love it. I don't think it works at this level anymore. Not the way things are going.
They have their own freedom. I mean, it's an element of freedom. Like, yes, you're not getting paid, but you're also free to have that, and they've been doing it for many years.
Right. Jared Jones, I think this year with Caitlin Clark and Zach Edey, the Big Ten probably has the most viewers. You're right, but they don't have the most rings. It's been 23 seasons since the Big Ten has won a national championship in basketball. That is atrocious with the brands the Big Ten has.
Big Ten has definitely fallen off in basketball.
They have fallen off hard.
Yeah.
Indiana, Michigan State. I think at Michigan State it's probably time for Tom Izzo to go. At Indiana, they've had coaches come and go. They've never been able to quite capture what they had with Bobby Knight. Of course, they haven't had you guys use toilet paper at the players either, but that's besides the point. They haven't done anything to catch up in the basketball, and I think some of this money rolling in, they need to do that. What do you guys think?
I don't disagree. They might be the most watched, but like you said, they're not winning rings. I think when you can say, well, schools like UConn and Villanova have more titles in the last 20 years than the Big Ten, that's not a good thing. And even bringing in UCLA, it's like, because UW and USC and Oregon hasn't won a national title in basketball since 1939 or something like that. So, like, UCLA is next up in 1995. So, yeah, no, it's not a great. There's no great about it. They're just bad at basketball. Everybody is.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, our mid teams have not kept up, which means that the challenge on the top teams has not kept up, which means the top teams, when they get into that high end competition at the end of the season, they're not quite as polished. They haven't quite gone through the same gauntlet that either you do in the Big 12 or even in some of these other conferences that just focus on basketball. Some of those teams coming out of there, and they have older players because they're not losing them to the NBA as early. So there's a multitude of reasons why that's happening.
Hey, I mean, we could see a run like the Pac-12 had a few years ago where everybody said it's the trash conference, and they ended up with 6 of the 8 or 5 out of 8 of the elite in the Elite 8. Like it was an absurd number. So.
It was a very strange year for those of us who are used to kind of middling Pac-12 basketball outside of UCLA and Arizona.
Yeah, half the top 8 was the worst conference. So you just have to get on a run, and nobody, like Moen said, and you've said, nobody in the Big Ten has done that since 2002. Yeah.
Well,
it's old enough. That title is old enough to drink.
Money's going to make a big difference when they can all go and start pulling in players with pay. That's going to make a bigger difference in basketball than it's going to make in football, in my opinion. I mean, you really only need to add 1 or 2 big name guys onto a team, and you change that team entirely. So I'm kind of expecting the Big Ten to rectify this. Well, I know the Big 12 folks are going to like it, but when they start throwing their money around. When all this employment stuff gets figured out, when NIL money starts coming back into the athletic departments and they start handing it out directly, that's going to change basketball, dare I say, more than it's going to change football.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's going to change. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to start to do it, and you just gave schools like Indiana and Kentucky, UCLA, the ability to just do whatever they want money-wise. Don't give blue bloods the chance. So,
right. And just to be clear, I know you guys are getting underpaid by the Big Ten, but you do get full CFP shares.
Yep.
So No complaining anymore.
I'm like on our, I like as far as like a Washington aspect. I mean, we have stupid money out here. Like it's not even going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
Considering Washington and Oregon are the teams from the Pac who have made the CFP or BCS championship game multiple times, I would hope we're getting our fair cut of that one at least.
Yeah. And to be honest, Washington State just made it legal for state employees at the universities to discuss NIL deals with the athletes. So
that's big.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Jim F. here on the academic side, A&M Texas share the Permanent University Fund, which owns 2 million acres of land, much of which is oil land.
And that's why both of them have so much. I mean, I've seen some charts and graphs on that, and the amount that they have to throw around from that, it's just not that. If people want to talk about what's not fair, it's that, and that's just life. And Texas A&M throws that around like it's nothing.
Do you guys know why the University of Washington can never go broke?
Because of how much you guys own in downtown. I mean, isn't
we
it just
own downtown Seattle?
like
University
the
of
whole
Washington
thing?
Owns almost all of Seattle.
Yeah, you rent it out, you lease it out, like everything is Washington owned.
You get two taxes. The buildings have two taxes. They have the property tax for the state, and then they have the property tax for the school. And the property tax for the school is usually higher than the one for the state. And they will take your property if you don't pay it. They're ruthless.
Yeah, Washington.
Like,
that's why I always said like, they're a lock.
Stupid. Yeah,
they're a lock for the Big Ten because they are super powerful.
Like the money that Texas and I mean, we already saw what A&M can do. Then we don't want to fire a coach and pay him $96 million to not be there. 40. What did it take? 48 hours to raise that money. That's ridiculous. They're just like, hey, write a check. Okay. Now you're giving them like this is like I've said this before on multiple shows. I don't think Kentucky and who is it? Virginia. I don't think or Tennessee and Virginia. I don't think they realized what they did. They just gave these two schools like they got blank checks. They got blank checks and unlimited Amex cards. They're going to be throwing everything around. That's terrifying.
Zach Mach. I hope I pronounced that last name right. If I didn't, I'm an asshole. I think your mark might have a backdoor handshake deal with the Big and SEC for after the ACC falls. More money.
If he's worth his weight in whatever, I would say, yeah, he better. I mean, why wouldn't he? What? I know people want, like fans want, the fight. They want to fight it and fight the power and all that, but that's not a smart move. Smart move is to work with them when other people are working against them. Like he said, he knows what's coming in the future. He knows what he's going to get, and why have them fighting against you for getting everything that you can at that point in time when you're stronger? So I prepare for when you're going to be at your highest strength and then bargain at that point in time.
I guess my question for you guys is, do you think that the ACC might have the same kind of backdoor deal in place if something were to happen with the Big 12?
Say that again.
Like say they decide to raid the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The ACC says they want to stay together and they want to raid the Big 12. Do you think the ACC might have something in place as well?
Well, the look-in period that we're talking about would benefit them if they were to win that. I just think that everyone knows that the brands that the Big Ten and the SEC are interested in are largely in the ACC. So it's less to do with Big 12 versus ACC and more to do with who are the Big Ten and SEC looking at. So in that regard, that's your mark's advantage because he's already had his poaching done to him.
Yeah, I think the ACC got an ask. We're just not going to figure it out right away. Jim F wants to let you know, no way A&M is going to fire Elko. That's directed to you. Got a super chat here from Ryan Willie. I arrived late. What did I miss? Becky just pissed off the Big 12, the ACC fan base. Her first words out of her mouth pissed them off. And other than that, we're just letting y'all sound off.
I do my best.
I leave the hot takes up to Becky.
We're just
we've
talking a
got-
little.
Yeah, we've got 80 viewers right now, guys. I know you have to split Immaculate. Just whenever you need to go, just give me the high sign. I know your wife's waiting to take you to see Dune 2, the epic.
I might have
so
another
just-
15 minutes.
Okay,
freedom
okay.
left,
Just give us
and
a
then-
high sign. Yep.
I'm like, I hope you get that like awesome popcorn thing.
Dude, I'm gonna be like, hey, can I get you to do the spin thing and the shuffle? Because I've seen it. Now I'm gonna expect it, and they're probably gonna throw me out. But
Yeah. They're going to say you're getting stale popcorn from yesterday.
like,
and you
"Ow."
like it.
damn it,
Are those kind of theaters still legal in Arizona? The Pee Wee Herman type?
the kind that have popcorn.
Sure.
They got a hole already cut in the bottom of the bucket, Immaculate.
Yeah, I think we were talking about a different meme. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, no need to watch any more of that garbage. Arkansas is getting trashed by a 9-win Vandy team. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I just want to say the American Athletic Conference, it's a 9 and 10 seed in the women's tournament in the final right now. It's real.
That's
9
pretty
and a
good.
10. It's
That's
pretty good. I'm like, UConn left and now everybody has a shot.
Zach Mock. That's how it is pronounced. I am no longer an asshole. Thank you, Zach. Good to see you here, buddy. If the 12 ACC agreed to the Power 2 58%, I'm not too happy about that. Well, they did. I think that's been pretty much confirmed by Ross Dellenger and Yahoo Sports that in principle they have agreed to that revenue distribution.
Can I ask a question to that?
Yeah.
What would people expect them to do to stop that? Would you tell the Big Ten and the SEC to kick rocks? Get lost? Like, this is what happens in negotiations, folks. Like, you don't get what you want. You get what you can. And guarantee you, the SEC and the Big Ten were asking for more than that.
Oh,
And it came down to that. Just like yeah.
They probably wanted half the tournament.
Probably.
They probably did. If there are 14 schools, they probably wanted 8 spots.
Yep. That's only 29% each.
Yeah.
Like, it's just over a quarter. And when you look at the teams they got in normally, I don't like taking this position because I know a lot of our viewers are not going to like me for it. But just in pure math and pure, the negotiation, I don't think this was a bad deal for the Big 12 and the ACC. It's maybe not what folks were expecting or wanting, but it should have been. It really should have been. And to get this down to that and to have basically just adding 2 games to the conference so you still have all your opportunities to get in or into the tournament, I think that folks are just going to have to look at this and be like, Yormark did okay. Yormark did all right this time again. He's doing pretty good as a commissioner. I'm impressed.
I think doesn't that also say like I think the ACC got more than the Big 12? Like it's just,
Yeah,
got a
that's just
little
the
higher
annual
share.
thing.
We
Yeah, just
touched
a little
upon
higher.
this, and that was a projection based upon it's not the conference payout cut, but it's also based upon the fact that they got more schools, but it's not like you're getting more per school on that regard, and it's the participatory cut that people are projecting because the ACC's had more in the past, but that was Clemson. That's all Clemson. So we have to look at it from now going forward. Do you think the ACC is going to put more teams in this tournament than the Big 12, and do you think they're going to go farther? That's really where the conversation should be. Like, and I think anyone could get into that and say yes or no to either side. But those projections are based off the past, and that's a 4-team tournament. So I don't really think they're that good to actually share. It's just
I personally thought that the Big 12 should have told the ACC Notre Dame gets part of your share. Like,
I mean, that's
given them more
internal.
money.
That's up
Yeah,
to the ACC
I would've
because
done
Notre
that.
Dame is an independent football team. They have a scheduling agreement, and that's it. So they don't have
thought
any right to it.
I thought I read in the article that Notre Dame is getting a flat 10 mil. As
Yeah,
their
they
cut.
are. They are.
Yeah. So it's not an ACC connected payout.
I thought it was 10%.
I may have misread. We'll
I
have
may have
to-
misread. Yeah. I know
Yeah, we
that's
actually had the
10,
quote in here. It was 10% along with the G5 schools. But again, I don't know if that's correct because I've heard reporting that they're getting ACC cut.
The devil's going to be in the details of that. Like, of that 10%, how much goes to the G5, how much to Notre Dame? I don't think they're going to get that much. And they honestly, if you look back at the old payouts with the 14, they didn't get that much. Notre Dame has never been paid that much. What they've fought for is access so that they can remain independent. Notre Dame's never really been about the money from the CFP. They just want the access. So I don't think it's going to be all that much. It's probably not a huge bump from what they were already getting. And that was only about 1 to 2 million, 1 or 3 million. It really wasn't much.
So it's like 58%, 32%. That's what, 80? And or no, that's 90.
No, it's 90. So then 10% to the G5.
10% to the G5 in Notre Dame. So.
And, just to kind of, sorry, Oregon State and Washington State folks, but as of right now, that 10% includes you. So kick ass in the G5, get into the playoffs, and get your money from the participatory money.
Heck, went around, get some more money.
Yeah. Get in the ACC. That's going to be your best bet.
I still think they're going for that. I think they'll have an opportunity once movement starts again. But for now, this is the reality for now.
Tennessee knows what it did. That's all we hear about in the SEC chats. It's all we needed. The most annoying fan base in the SEC to have something to be more annoying about. Wow, getting some Tennessee hate.
It's funny. See, we know all that stuff about the Big Ten, but it's kind of interesting to see those little details of the SEC.
Yeah, they're just as bad as we are. But I realize,
they just don't show us. They keep it in-house better.
They just got that chant, SEC, SEC. Meanwhile, they're shanking their neighbor right next to them in the seat.
Yeah, but when we look over at them when they do it, they'll smile.
Yeah.
Stand up. Don't die yet. Yeah.
Team SEC. Not only are players leaving for more money, AD's heading for Texas A&M. Just ask Nebraska. Leave our Cornhusker buddies alone. They're dealing with some shit right now.
Nebraska's got some very deep administrative issues going on at that school right now. I don't even know what exactly, but to not be able to have replaced a president after, 7 months?
Has it been that long?
Oh, it's
like, what is it? Did the president just step down or go somewhere else? Like, what?
He went to Ohio State.
He went to Ohio State.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And
didn't Arizona State take the 80 hire the AD for Missouri in like a month?
Arizona did. Arizona did.
Arizona.
Arizona did it like 3 weeks or something.
Arizona State still hasn't hired an AD. Yeah. And funny enough, their old AD is still working at the school. He's just not an AD anymore. Okay. So it's
like Washington hired the Tulane AD. We hired him in like 5-6 weeks total.
Very quickly.
Pretty quick.
It's kind of funny to see which schools are desired from like a total sports and school perspective. Obviously, football is a big part of it, but they're running an entire department and all these sports. They have to manage the whole thing. It's pretty fascinating to kind of see which schools are held in high regard and which are not.
Yeah.
Movie Time Blues. Fans in Legacy Big Ten area being hyper obsessed with football is a weakness. They have resources to compete in basketball and are in an eroded area for football recruiting. I would have to disagree with you on this. There is some definitely good football recruiting in the Midwest. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Northern Kentucky, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, where they build them big and 300 pounds, Minnesota, Wisconsin. If you're getting a good lineman, you're getting them from Minnesota, Wisconsin, or the state of Iowa or Nebraska.
Yeah,
I get a lot of the South comes up into Iowa and recruits like tight ends and linemen, and both offensive and defensive. So they have their pieces here. We just have to go to other places for some skill players.
I think like out west, what they've talked about is like to find the bodies in the trenches on the defensive line, you have to go to the South. But outside of that, old linemen are pretty much a 6'8", 290-pound kid.
Yeah,
find them pretty much anywhere.
We got a few dudes like that out here.
Yeah, we got a lot of dudes like that.
D lineman though is a totally
D lineman is hard to find.
They want farm kids, because if you ever had a farm guy grab you just because of all the bailing that they do, they have a strength of like it's almost
It's true.
otherworldly.
It's
It,
the
it,
That's
it,
twist.
true.
it sounds stupid,
It's
but
the
a lot of those
twisting at the
guys,
pelvis to throw.
dude,
It's perfect for offensive linemen, for wrestlers too.
at
Like a
Iowa they
lot
make
of
them
great
go.
wrestlers come out of Iowa.
They have
Becky will know the name. We had Trey Adams. He eventually played in the NFL, was an offensive tackle, 6'8", 315, coming out of high school, I think. Worked on
Farmer.
an apple orchard in Wenatchee on his family's farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, logging. He was part of the group. They would chop down the trees and have to move the logs.
Yeah.
Like typically
country
out here,
Big
out
boys.
here they're just big boys. They're usually coming from logging backgrounds. Except on the eastern side, then they're usually farmers.
Finding guys with that size that can move quick and play on the D line and rush the passer, that's a totally different skill set. That's a rare thing to find.
And if they're not from like those areas, they're the Polynesian boys, because you can find them in Utah and California. Out here, like they just naturally grow to be 6'6", 300 pounds.
Yeah, Big 12 and Big 10 friends, keep working on your Polynesian pronunciation guides. A lot of vowels, but you can do it. I believe in you.
I wanted to get to this real quick before Immaculate leaves. Connor Johnson's here, the Oregon State Beavers fan. Immaculate and Crew, you think the Big 12 ACC are just waiting till after August 1st when the Pac-2 has complete control of the assets and money to add us? Anything prior and we give up cash to the other 10? What do you think, Immaculate?
I don't know if we've talked about this on air. I know I've had some private chats about this. If I was some other groups in that boardroom and there were some things I wanted to block via a vote, I might not want to put my name on that. Oregon State, Washington State's vote in order to block things, in my opinion, had value to other parties as well at that table, because they can make deals. Like, instead of, say, inviting them now and bringing them in and getting rid of that vote, you use them and that vote with maybe the promise to invite them later. Not saying that's the case. Just strategically looking at it purely as an asset, that vote they had and the way they used it and wielded it had a lot of value to a lot of other parties. Take that for what you will. I'm not saying that there's a spot, but when I was watching that happen and going down, it was like, that's awfully valuable to a lot of people who can sit there and say, oh yeah, we're fine with it, but that guy is the one you have to talk to. Kind of made me wonder, maybe they had some deals. So I think that something could be worked out after all this is done. Maybe not. But I still think that Oregon State has a lot of value. And I mean, from what I've seen and watched and the new stadium and the way that goes and how good that looked on TV, I don't think that the networks have a problem with them. I would say if they're a pair with Washington State's probably holding them back a little bit. But I think Washington State's if you're needing to replace anyone out west at some point in time, there's a lot of value with that. That's a very complete school with the athletic department there as well. They've been doing an awful lot. So I still think something can happen there. We're just going to have to see how this starts to play out and pan out.
This isn't me taking a shot at Oregon State, but even accounting for what opponent you played and what time slot and network, Washington State has done typically better than Oregon State the past few years. And they both do just fine. They would be a mid-level Big 12 school in terms of viewership. That hasn't been the issue. It's a lot of other things, and we get that. But viewership is not what's holding these schools back.
Yeah, and I just mean, like, Oregon State has the new stadium. When you look at the school, it's the only school in the state of Oregon that has admission numbers that are rising. To me, it's a good brand to grab a hold of, but who am I? It's just could be complete hogwash. I don't know, but I think that their value that they had was in having that vote to block things, but that time is ending. So we're going to see the truth of it now. Whether there is something or isn't, I think that time might be coming up here in the future when moves start to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State's the flagship school in Oregon, and even Oregon fans will tell you they would be in the same exact boat as both of those schools had Phil Knight not 30 years ago decided he wanted to invest in the program.
Yep.
So had that never happened, all three schools might be in this boat. It might be a Pac-3, but there's nothing that Oregon State or Washington State did wrong. Nothing. Absolutely nothing they did wrong. Their value is just how they base the value is just, it's weird. They don't have a true market and they don't have the true state. It's just kind of like they get 2 million viewers a game, but
they're a victim of geography.
They're a victim of geography.
Because the Big 12 wanted something that was closer. They wanted the brands that were closer.
I mean, the Big 12 wanted to be in a market. They, at this point, they have to look at, we want to be in the market. We've got to get the eyeballs. And yeah, your games bring it, but when we're not playing, they're not bringing them. So.
Yeah, Oregon needed billions of Uncle Phil's Dilla dollars just to overcome their bad geography and get into a big conference. So short of that, I'm not sure how it would work out for the Beavs, but I'm still hopeful there is a home for them in the ACC or the Big 12 if things shake out correctly. And I think in good time, they would hold their own in value. That's, former Pac-12 fans' perspective, but they get the short end of the stick a lot, even in comments from other people saying that they're G5 level. They're really not.
No, they're going to crush the G5.
Great. Oh my God. Yeah. The next couple of years, they're going to absolutely roll through the.
You're going to see Oregon State in that tournament. I'm
guaranteed.
Pretty confident that you're going to see Oregon State in the tournament. So, and maybe Washington State too. I don't know. We'll see.
I fully expect that those two will probably have one loss. It would just be to each other. That's it. Only loss they'll have outside of playing in Oregon and Washington. That's it. And I do want to say this. I said this on Monday, but Washington State has not had a conversation with the Big 12 since August, September. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to start them again, because they are constantly emailing and calling that conference as well as the ACC to do whatever they can. They have been trying. They just have not heard back. And who knows, maybe in a year or two, it happens. And, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But, God, they're going to be, if they get in that playoff and they can, they'll be good enough to beat, they might be good enough to win 2 games.
Well, if we just, I know you guys probably don't want to go too much longer, so I'm going to have to pop out here. But real quick, one last thing on that. The new playoff is going to have a payout structure where you're $3 to $4 million, $3 to $5 million per game, how far you go in. So if say somehow Oregon State was able to make it through a round or two and get upwards of $8 million or so from that playoff, you're basically kind of making as much by doing that as a team that's in the Big 12 and not playing. So it's as bad as it might be, as long as they're there and they're playing with this new structure, I think they're going to be fine. Short term.
You don't even got to share it. You're sharing it with nobody. You're an independent as far as they're concerned.
I think,
you're sharing it with Wazoo.
I think they're going to get a portion of the G5 conference cut.
Yeah.
And the Pac is still technically getting, I don't know, it's messy. I think that they're gonna get their pay. And like Connor's saying in chat, they're getting the states throwing some money as well. So I think they'll be okay. But on that one, I'm probably gonna have to cut out of here and go do my own.
All right, Immaculate. Thank your wife for letting us have you for the time you did.
Absolutely.
Tell her I apologize if you're running late. It's your fault, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be doing the apologizing. Appreciate it, guys. Always love talking with you guys, and have a good night, everybody.
All right,
don't have too much popcorn.
Careful with that popcorn bucket.
Yep.
All right, let's get into some more questions. Let's get to some business here first, guys. It's the top of the hour. Over 600 comments in the chat right now. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can. I'm Moen After Dark. That's what we like to do. We like to get your guys' feedback. We like to let you sound off. You can talk shit to us. Do what you want. right now, super chats are going to get preference. Members' comments are going to get preference. I'm going to do the best I can. We've got close to 90 people watching live. If you guys could give us a like, that would be much appreciated. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps us tremendously. If you're watching the video on demand, leave a comment down below. We do interact with our comment section. So we'll be by shortly to either take the shit or give the shit back. Otherwise, if you want to become a member, just hit the little cash icon, become a member, gift a membership, leave a super chat. Thank you. And we won't talk about it for another hour. All right. Tony Lawson, remember the Big has led the nation in attendance for the last 46 years in a row. Not winning national championships doesn't seem to be having a negative impact on the brand.
On a national perspective, it does. I mean,
perception is reality, and if your perception changes, it doesn't really matter how many fans are in attendance. You're still going to be looked on in a certain way.
Right, but it is impressive that even the worst teams in the Big Ten will consistently pack their stadium to watch your team lose.
Yeah, I can't say that's necessarily true for the football focused Western teams.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, when UCLA is playing Ohio State, that stadium's going to be sold out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was saying to somebody, I was like, I was like, look, we don't want to pay for crap. Put something on the field that wins, or we're not showing up. We also don't want to pay to watch the team just blow a team out. Like Seattle and Los Angeles, major metropolitan areas, you are competing with concerts, professional sports teams, outdoor stuff. There's a plethora of things to do. You know, if you're not winning, nobody's going to come. I've got better things to do on a Saturday than watch my team go. You know, Ken, I sat through an 0-12 season. Pickles did too. We got better things to do than go watch that crap fest. Let me tell you.
It's a tough sports dollar to compete for when you're in a big market with all the other pro teams.
Yeah. And then, you know, top it off, like if you're not firing the coach, you're not like making it look like you're trying to improve. What is that doing to your fan base? At some point, you have to sit back and go, that's not good enough for us. We're not coming until you do something. Now, I'm not saying do what Stanford and Cal have done, which is you go from sold out stadiums with Harbaugh and Tedford to, you know, you can't give the seats away, but you know, like you got to be smart about this. And I mean, 46 years in a row, that's great. You know, UCLA has 11 national titles. They don't even have a Final Four banner up. They only have national title banners. But it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
Like at some point, they don't matter.
Notre Dame is a proverbial pot at the end of the rainbow. Then I would argue it is a P2. I think that's pretty much agreed upon that. The Big Ten wants Notre Dame. We want them bad. Notre Dame doesn't want us, but eventually they shall bend the knee. Tony Lawson, $8 billion over 7 years.
Goodness gracious.
Good luck.
Big 12 was in the national championship in basketball 3 out of 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah, nobody's denying that. The Big 12 is basketball city.
Top to bottom, they're the best conference. There's no doubt about it.
And they won 2 of them. So.
Yeah. Mr. Monkey says Big Ten needs to add Kansas. They're in my 2014 model. I have Kansas in the Big Ten.
I have Kansas.
Keep investing in their football program like they are, and you know it might not just be the Big Ten looking at them. It's a long shot to the SEC, but you know they have the opposite thing as Oregon State. They're in a good location, they have good resources, and all they need is a winning product on the field.
I can't wait to see what the stadium looks like when it's done. It looks like the concepts look nice. Them and Northwestern, the 2 stadiums, look amazing. God.
As an Ohio State fan, I can't wait to pee on the stadium at Northwestern.
We all can't. Well, I mean, I would say that as a Husky fan, somebody already did it at Research. So after you've already seen that video probably.
Conundrum, UCLA should refocus on basketball. I think we all agree on that.
I've said this. I don't understand why they're so football focused. Like your football was 60 years ago. Stop. Like basketball took over. They should have stuck with it. They should do what Kansas has done and dive right into we're a basketball school, but they won't do it.
Kansas is trying to be both. And the funny thing with UCLA that most people don't realize unless you dive into recruiting, they recruit better than teams like UW most years because they can pull any of the California 4 and 5 star guys that don't go to USC. A lot of them will go to UCLA. They have a notoriously meddlesome leadership, and they're part of the UC school system that involves Cal. So they have so much red tape on every single decision they make.
I have said this on our show. I have said I fully believe that Chip Kelly left not because he didn't want to be a head coach anymore, but because of something going on behind the scenes at UCLA that we don't know about. Like, it had to be crap. It had to be. He took a huge pay cut and left leading a Power 2 program now to go be the offensive coordinator at another school. And I know Ohio State's a better school, but I wouldn't have done. I'm not taking a $4 million pay cut, people.
He's chasing a ring.
Probably.
Ryan Willie with the super chat. Thank you, Ryan. And we will boo our teams when they play like shit. That is true.
True.
And we will harass kids that are 18 years old on Twitter if they drop a pass. It's one of the worst things in the Big Ten fandom. It's ridiculous. Now, if you're paying them, now guess what? If you're a paid employee, I'm going to have a lot less sympathy for you now.
Yep.
If you're getting paid for it. So enjoy that while it's free.
It's still not as bad as what like I've seen some SEC fans do. I think Oklahoma's fan base like flooded. A kid left the school, and they flooded his father's business with 1-star negative reviews on Yelp. All this, I was like, oh, that's a little absurd and not necessary. Funny though, but it's terrible.
Daniel Gygax, Purdue still has the Bobby Knight chair throwing contest before they play Indiana. I want to know how they measure that though. Is that just distance, or because Bobby used to get a spin on them? They were plastic chairs, and he used to get them to spin on the court when he'd throw them out there. Had that English on him.
Yeah, he would hit that like he did it like half court, and that thing would spin all the way to the far corner. Oh yeah.
It was more impressive. I think a couple times he hit it with a folder, and that sucker stayed open, right?
Yeah. He's spinning it so hard that thing's like, I can't close. Centrifugal force won't let me.
Bobby Knight had some anger issues. Let's just put it that way. Ryan Willie wants Greg Gard fired at Wisconsin.
Already?
They take their stuff seriously. They've had some good teams there.
Yeah.
Buckshot Kid, what new big schools will make the Frozen Four in what year? Well, I don't think any of the new ones have. You're all club hockey, right?
We all have club teams that play in the same league together. Yes.
Yeah.
Like Washington men's actually got knocked out by USC this year in the playoffs.
Yeah. Washington, I think I've heard Oregon's looking at it. It'll cost a couple $100 million. Washington, in order, the AD was on the radio out here in Seattle and was actually asked this question. And he's like, look, we would love to do it, but Title IX, we're 55% female at the university. So we have to have more women's sports than men's sports because of Title IX. So to do it, we have to figure out what women's sport we don't have that the Big Ten has. And I think it's
women's hockey.
Field hockey or women's hockey would be the thing, but I don't know, it might not be a revenue driving sport with all the travel. You have to kind of take both into account. But Seattle Kraken have been very interested in helping out. Yeah, there's a women's club team, and the Seattle Kraken have been very interested in helping out. UW actually plays their games at their training facility.
Yeah, that's been the implication, is that unlike Oregon, who will have to ask, Papa Phil for a few bucks to build an arena, because I don't think their basketball arena is suitable to put ice.
Right.
Same thing. Washington, our basketball arena was retrofit, and it was never intended to have an hockey rink fit inside there. The Kraken have shown interest in supporting the team and kind of helping that move along. They play at the practice facility, which is 1,000 seats. But it's been said that if they don't want to build an arena on campus, they could probably work out a deal to either play at one of the two junior arenas in the area, which are between 5,000 and 7,000 seats, or if they just filled out the lower bowl at where the Seattle Kraken play, it's about 10,000 seats. So those are possible. It's a way to get it up and running more quickly. But yeah, the scholarship issue is something they're going to have to really look at.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, those junior hockey teams, you know, they play in Kent and in Everett, and they're both 30, 40 minutes from the university, so north or south. Not ideal, not the best situation, but it is something that like I said, they're thinking about, but also, you know, they're currently fundraising to build a new softball stadium, and a lot of people didn't know this, but UW is actually building. They're finally knocking down the old swimming pool and building a basketball training facility. So on the backside of the basketball arena. So
all right,
a lot of things going
but
on
to
there.
answer the question, I think it's going to be Oregon, and I think it's going to be 2036.
Probably. I'm not even going to disagree. Probably.
Yeah, I think Oregon, part of the agreement with the Big Ten was Oregon making a big investment in hockey. A new hockey arena was part of their pitch to the Big Ten. So
wouldn't that have to be for all 4 teams coming in, though?
Not really.
Not really,
I guess
yeah.
because the other ones have pro facilities they could potentially use.
No. Washington already offers more sports than Oregon did, as does UCLA and USC. So it's
right. I think it would
know
be
wrestling's
Oregon would
big.
be the winner. Yeah, wrestling, you got to get a wrestling team put together.
We had wrestling, but Title IX came along. We had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
Wrestling's big at the Big Ten as well.
We're not giving up our crew team, I tell you that.
no,
You don't have to.
we're now making the Big Ten proud with that crew team. Beat the Nazis. Yeah.
Rock Chalk 94. You cannot convince me that A&M will not be in the Big Ten. Well, look, I've got them in my 2014 model. That's purely wild speculation on my part. I saw on Greg's show earlier, he wanted to know where that rumor got started. I don't know that I started. I think I might have started the rumor by just simply speculating on it. I'm not saying I have any inside information to that. I just think it'll happen.
I think it started when Texas
sure.
You know, like joined the SEC. Like everybody's like A&M hates Texas. Just I don't know what it is. I have no insight on that. I only know a few people went to both schools. And what I've heard is A&M cannot stand Texas on like an administrative level, not just as like a rival. So
perfect time to mention our good friend Wild Ute. As said, he is committed to a members video Texas A&M to the Big Ten.
Yes.
So for all our non-members out there, it's coming down the pipe. You might want to get in on that.
Absolutely. And if you want to become a member, I just put the link right there in chat on Nightbot. Will help you out. Big 12 underdog story is awesome. I agree. And champs, that's why I want the Big 12 to have the last laugh with the Pac and ACC after UT and OU left. The Big 12, Pac, and ACC fans were insufferable and left our schools out, even if that would have saved them.
Not wrong. I was one of those people. But it was fun. It was fun to talk that trash.
Yeah. Schadenfreude. That's the word you're looking for. Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
Will Nebraska have a winning record this year?
Are they becoming the Dallas Cowboys of college football? I thought that was Miami.
It's tough. It's going to be on how well Dylan Raiola transitions into the college football game. I 5-7. I'm still putting them at 5-7.
I would think 5-7 based on their schedule.
The defense is legitimate. They've got a decent defense.
The defense is lights out. Like
yeah,
they're all. If they can, like, I think if they had just halfway decent quarterback play last year, they'd win 8 games. But because they didn't have a real quarterback, they couldn't win games. It's just like you said. I think if they
couldn't score any points. So yeah,
they couldn't score on a high school team, but they would shut them out. Figure that out.
Who would you all consider for AD at ASU? I think Patrick Chun, I think is his name, up at Washington State.
Yeah,
I think he would be a great pick for that.
I don't know, Moen. He was he wouldn't leave for Ohio State. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
He was in
Well, I don't know that
consideration.
he was.
He was in
I don't know
consideration
that he
for
was
it.
offered Ohio State.
No,
Let's
but
put
he
it
was in
that way.
consideration for
He
it.
was in consideration.
And he pulled himself out. So
Yes.
he was
But I
also
think he
in
might have pulled
consideration at
himself-
Washington. So
Right, but Patrick might have pulled himself out knowing he wasn't going to get the job, and they told
true.
him as an alumni, pull yourself out so it doesn't look bad on us or you.
yeah, I would, if I was them, I'd try to throw my checkbook at Chun. If not, there's a few people I would go after, like the I think the Utah State AD has been very good. You see some of his hires have been great. And then the other one I would look for is the AD at East Carolina. Very, like, if you're going to go G5, go G5. Like, East Carolina's had some pretty good hires over the years. And or
Washington
Coastal Carolina.
went right to
Coastal Carolina, not East Carolina. Go after the Coastal Carolina guy or App States.
Yeah, Washington went right to Tulane, and everything we've seen so far, he's the right man for the job. So it's not just about taking from other power schools. It's finding the guy that, like our new AD, Troy Dannon, does something the previous AD didn't really do as much, is he knows how to talk to donors and generate money. That's everything I've heard about him.
Yeah, no, like night and day from Jen Cohen. Like night and day. Like, it is amazing. But at the same time, Jen Cohen was really good, but Jen Cohen didn't like to fire people. She just did not like to fire people. That's the only knock that anybody's ever had on Jen Cohen, was her inability to just go out and be like, you know what, this isn't working out, you're fired. So I think, like, for ASU, they've got to find somebody, one, who can absolutely fundraise, because I think it's crucial for Arizona State. They have an independent hockey team. Like, they're the only Pac-12 school that plays at the D1 level, and they're not very good. So they need a fundraising person, and then they need to find somebody who's not afraid to, like, one, stand up to the president at the school, and to, be the boss of their athletic department. Because right now, the previous guy, it felt like the school president was the one that was in charge of it. Like, they had like an owner GM kind of relationship, giving it a pro football look.
All right, we got another super chat here from our buddy Ryan. Willie, Ryan, you're killing it tonight. I'm going to give you this sounder.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Baseball was a casualty of Title IX at Wisconsin.
That's a shame. Love baseball. Yeah, baseball's pretty big out here for West Coast colleges. Ask the Oregon State fans; they're all about it. That's their bread and butter. They are a legitimate blue blood in baseball. The Oregon State Beavers.
Yep, UCLA loves it. It's big at Stanford. Is huge at Stanford.
Yeah, UW's pretty good most years in baseball.
Wazoo has always had a decent baseball squad. Gonzaga's had a decent baseball squad. Like,
yeah, I was telling Conundrum here in chat. I'll do him a deal. You add crew, men's and women's, because I think only currently it's women's supported by the conference, and we'll add wrestling and hockey. There's your deal.
I think we have men's crew in the conference. I believe we have the 8
What I saw
teams.
was only women's at men's. I think is club. I may be mistaken on that.
No, I think we have the requisite 8 teams that are necessary for that.
Yeah.
I'll
Well, you're
have to
about
look
to
it
get
up.
4 more, I think. So
Yeah,
I'm Googling it. Yeah, it just pulls up women's rowing when you Google it. But yeah, it's only women's.
That's odd, because I know we have a crew team at Ohio State.
as he's saying with baseball, though, that may have changed because of Title IX and
Right.
recently. Those things are changing all the time, and we may not hear about it in news releases, but certain sports that are on the fringe get relegated down to club level or just dropped completely. But yeah, more sports is better in the era of NIL. I hope that I'm worried that this employee dynamic will lead to more sports being basically told either go club level or get rid of you altogether. I hope that isn't the case. But if they can rectify this thing so we keep our sports and better yet expand them, I'm all for it.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
they need to be conference employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Monkey says wants to let us know Georgia Tech.
Lancer.
Jamie Thornton. Jamie, you still haven't DM'd me on Twitter the name of that radio station. I want to listen to the show. You need to let me know where it is. I can't listen to it, but you let me know where it is.
Which show?
She's got a radio show.
What?
Yeah.
No offense to Jamie, but how many sports radio shows are there in Arkansas? Can we sort through them rather quickly?
It's not a sports show. It's a music show.
Okay.
Music
Gotcha.
show. The ACC is most likely going to become a G6 conference by 2028. Immaculate. Well, he's not here to answer for you, but so it was smart of BY to get that look-in clause. The Big 12 could be the huge winner looking back in 2031 when it's over. They could be.
I think they have the most to gain in proportion to where they are right now. Because the Big 10 may add one or two other big brands to a collection of big brands, same in the SEC, but the Big 12 has potential to add and, close the gap as much as possible.
I agree with that. I mean, the worst case scenario, if it's always a one bid, it's not good. But if that one bid's always winning games, that's all that matters.
Mr. Monkey says that last let him cook is an exponential force multiplier. You're right. It's a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. Hidden Hawaiian. That's why I try to tell these boys, don't sleep on my Polynesian bratas.
We're telling you.
Telling you.
Yeah. Moen, you're welcome. Mr. JT Tuamalau from Seattle.
Yeah,
One
you're
of our
welcome. You don't know how
Polynesian
much
friends.
that cost us.
I'm sure it cost you a pretty penny because I know Washington was right there.
Yeah. I like this, and Mossy Talks, I'm going to tell you to tweet this to Wild U. I think he would love to do this graphic for us on Friday. Wild U should do an analysis of the last 6 or 10 years or whatever of the all at-larges versus 3-3-2-2-1. All at-larges benefits the SEC most and the Big Ten a little.
Is he assuming
probably
that's
right.
what CFP rankings at large?
Right. What would be the final CFP rankings?
So nix the G5 completely.
Well, they would be in there. You would have Cincinnati in there still because
Oh, Cincinnati.
If it's an all at large, I don't think you would.
you would. Cincinnati was ranked. He's saying go back
true.
for the last
Yeah,
6 or
I
10
see,
years.
Okay, now I'm
Right.
tracking.
I think if we go back, like that would mean that USC would have been in
Yes.
once or
I
twice.
tell you what, my
Washington would have been in like 3 more times. Oregon would have been in a couple more times. It may not. It doesn't sound like. I'm thinking about it. It may not benefit like you think, but yeah, the SEC would still be kings. Like there's no getting around that.
Yeah.
But would Tennessee get in? Like once? Just saying that out loud.
I'm curious to see that too. If Ute doesn't get after it, I may have to if I have a free minute.
Scott Schrader, hey Moen, who would hire as new president and AD as Nebraska? We need a lot of help. Boy, that's a tough question right there.
I want to hear your facetious answer before your real answer.
Well, you're going to have to hire a president first. You can't hire
No.
an AD without a president. So, as far as president goes,
That's a much bigger search also for president. Because it
Yeah.
encompasses so much more. That one I understand why it takes time.
Well, I mean, I hear Stanford fired theirs last year. He might be
Yeah.
okay for them. I mean,
well, if
he
it doesn't work
he
out for Jim
fudged his
Phillips,
research, but
if it doesn't work out for Jim Phillips in the ACC, I would highly recommend him as a president. He's
Man,
a great president at Northwestern. He's just not a very good commissioner. Of the
hey,
ACC.
I know a great guy who was great at Washington, but terrible as the NCAA president, Mark Emmert.
George Kliavkoff, that's who I'm putting.
Oh,
up.
There you
Nelly.
go.
He needs a
Oh.
job. Give
better
that
yet,
man
call
a job.
Larry Scott, give him a ring. He'll do it for $20 million a year and a free condo.
And Patrick Chun again would be the AD I would hire.
Pat Chun is like a legitimate candidate. Like he's a
Yeah.
good AD.
Pat Chun
Good
is
AD.
a great AD, like amazing AD.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just
I
got to
would hire
hire
him,
the
yeah.
president first, and I I'm not completely up on who the best presidents are or the best
No.
presidential candidates are.
Like for a school president, you're just like, okay, you'd have to look at departments around the country at every single school who's had great research, done great things in leadership at a university level, even though they have their, tenure. Yeah, good luck. I honestly good luck. That's why, I think the governor out here in Washington actually does the hiring.
Yeah, it's the same way in Ohio. So
yeah, I don't know how it works
you're
in
a state
Nebraska.
employee.
Yeah.
I'd imagine if they're a public school, then it's the same way. The governor makes the final approval based on recommendations.
Thank God for search firms, right?
Yeah, but Patrick Chung, I think, is the hottest AD candidate out there.
No, he has to be. He's ridiculously good.
Which is crazy considering the state that Wazoo is in right now.
Yeah, and UW went after UW actually went after the Oregon State AD, who's also a really big name in the circles. They just couldn't pry him away.
Rock and Rant, has anyone ever seen Jim Phillips and George Kliavkoff in the same room? They seem to be the same person, to be honest.
Well, last time we saw George Kliavkoff, he had just emerged from his Unabomber cabin in Montana. He looked like the Unabomber too, with that beard.
That's a morning beard.
That's a morning beard, yeah.
Yeah, that's me after I haven't taken care of it for a few weeks for sure.
Oh. It's like, it's not a great thing.
Jamie Thornton, there is a true hatred there, but A&M is now taking pride in the fact that they're in the SEC first, and they don't want to look like they are running away from Texas. That's from my friend Jen at A&M. Your friend Jen at A&M.
Yeah, I mean it kind of sucks because that's the perception for what happened when they left the Big 12 at the time, because the Big 12 was in a far different state than it is today. And it was seen as, oh, you're running away from Texas because you can't compete with them because, Mac Brown at the height of his powers was beating A&M regularly. And I think that they were tired of that perception. They were the little brother. They wanted to be in the Big Shot Conference. And now their arch rival has followed them. They run away again to the Big Ten. It's a bad look. I'm not going to lie.
And it's just like, we're going to absorb some of your shit for a little while before we get too annoyed to deal with it any longer. Real quick though, hey Moen, was there ever a school that in the Big Ten, because we're new, obviously everybody in the Pac-12 hated USC, but outside of Ohio State and Michigan, anybody else just absolutely hate a school enough that you would
University of Chicago.
Was it Chicago? Really?
Yeah, but we're talking 100 years ago.
I was they just folded their program, I thought.
Right, they did. They folded their program for academics, but prior to that, they had, I think, 17 national championships. They dominated the conference year in and year out. Even Notre Dame, they beat Notre Dame, so.
Oh, they beat Notre Dame back when Notre Dame was good.
Yeah. They folded theirs up, and, Chicago used to get a lot of shit. Other than that, it's Ohio State and Michigan.
Preseason champions, OHIO, so they're a bunch of punks. So,
yeah.
Hey, they did have a nuclear reactor for a bomb underneath their football field, so they probably would have folded it too.
Yeah, that would be the one school that everybody in the Big Ten used to hate. Movie Time Blues, downside protection. I don't know that there is any downside guarantees. I can't imagine that there is.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would ever actually agree to that. Too many variables.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about there, Movie Time Blues. You're talking about a player's downside protection guarantee or a downside protection guarantee on the playoffs?
I assumed it was about the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. You have to have at least to have a winning record to be the Dallas Cowboys. You make the playoffs and choke. Nebraska can't even get through a bowl game. Poor Nebraska. Just when everything seems to be going right for them, their president leaves, their AD leaves. They've got Matt Rule, but
I actually like Nebraska as like a casual West Coast guy that doesn't have any like
Their fans
history
are
or
so
hatred.
Sweet. I don't like.
Yeah, like
their fans are really
best.
nice. I mean, if you
there
go to
are
one of their
stories
games,
of I think it
they're-
was what the mid '90s. We had a home and home against Nebraska, and they did the thing where they clap you off the field because the Huskies beat them in Lincoln. It was a big thing, and they were really good. And so was Washington. I guess all the people I know that went to that game have nothing but good things to say about it.
they're really like the friendliest fan base you'll ever find. They'll
They
feed
Love
you.
it.
Yeah.
You can talk all the
can't
trash
wait to
to
make
them
a
in the
trip.
world, and they're so nice that you're like, I feel bad for talking trash to you.
Yeah. The worst
that's how it
fan
goes.
base in the Big Ten is Penn State. Penn State is hands down the worst fan base. They'll
Really?
spit on you. They'll spit on you.
Oh.
I went to a game once. I got covered in spit.
Well, I mean, there are stories of Oregon fans with water balloons full of not water.
Whoa, okay. Well,
hot
Oregon may be
water.
the new worst fan base in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
There are more Oregon fans outside of Oregon than in it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
The Big Lubbock, I didn't think y'all were having a show tonight. No, Bomber couldn't make the show tonight. He's doing the Big 12 Mafia tomorrow night. I offered to fill in on the Wednesday slot for him with the Moen After Dark. He had a family function he had to make tonight. So Bomber will be here tomorrow night with Jen Santee and Daniel Kelly talking Florida State, talking college football playoff. Tonight, I'm just kind of running the show, getting everybody's pitching in. Teamwork's making the dream work here.
We just like hanging out with everybody. It's good to chat with everyone.
Yeah. That's what we do. We do this for the chat. Jim F. in like 2007, I think we had a tornado just missed our house. It destroyed one of the malls that was near us. Yeah. Those tornadoes down in the south, you can keep them.
Yeah. I've never seen
Polite
seen
pass.
it
We don't
tornado.
have a ton of extreme weather up here.
We just get those earthquake things. And,
Yeah.
and we had that like giant volcano that's like the stratovolcano.
We don't talk about that. That's like
We don't
one
talk
in
about
here.
her. Yeah.
That's
We don't
like
talk
a
about
one-time thing.
Yeah.
You hope. Last 3 years, 42 slots. Big has 14. SEC has 12. ACC 3. Big
Okay.
12 has 9. G5 has 3, and Notre Dame takes 1. That's going for the
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
is
going
that
with
is that
14.
based on current conferences or previous conferences? Because I
Yeah.
don't see Pac-12 in
Oh,
there.
that's true. That's probably
Yeah.
based off of Oregon and Washington and USC
Yeah.
being in.
I was about to say the SEC should, based on where they were at the time, the SEC should be number one because the Pac-12 had three or four. Oregon once, Washington twice.
Yeah,
so
but
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
yeah, but the SEC also has Oklahoma and Texas included in that. I think.
Yeah. So they get them.
I don't know,
Well-
Larry. Let us know how you.
Well,
have
it's
that
only
figured
Texas
out.
in the last 3 years, though, right? Just once.
Well, TCU, Texas.
Or
So if we
TCU
did the
would be
Big
Big
12,
12.
if we
Yeah.
just did the Big 12, you have Cincinnati that actually made it. Cincinnati,
Yeah.
TCU. You got to throw out Oklahoma and Texas because they get added to the SEC. But if we're just doing like what would be at larges, like top 12, then yeah, this might be right because the ACC would only have Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
The SEC has 5 teams in the preseason top 25 poll, ranked in the top 10, and has 9 total combined in the top 25. Yeah, the SEC always has bias towards them.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you get teams like Tennessee and Florida that are ranked in the top 25 and end up going 4-8. It's fine. It happens. There's perception differences, but it is what it is.
Chad Bracey, a member. What a treat. I have Weller for my Georgia Tech beverage tonight. Crown
Here's to that.
XO. Becky, what are you drinking? Diet Pepsi?
I actually had a Baja Blast because we have a I have a K on the way home. I had a KFC.
There you go.
I had a KFC cheesa, chicken thing that's like it's like poor man's chicken
Yeah,
parmesan.
Don't
That's
drink
what
and
it's-
drive, everyone. Have a refreshing soda if you are driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Drink lots of water too.
So I had that and a stacker. But I was like, Tony just like posted in there. Nebraska has a somewhat easy schedule compared to others, and I'm just looking at their schedule.
They play Iowa. That's a
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah, I was like, they play first game UTEP. Yeah, they'll win that. Colorado game 2, they'll probably lose that.
Colorado, yeah.
Yeah. Northern Iowa game 3, they'll probably win that. Notice they say probably. Then they have Illinois. They're home with Illinois.
When?
At Purdue.
When?
Home with Rutgers.
When? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
That's
I
at
think they
Rutgers
lose
is
that.
better.
I think they lose
Listen,
that.
Illinois'
Rutgers.
defense is much improved. Purdue is. Oh, if you're playing at Purdue, is that at Purdue or is
At
that
Purdue, so it could.
You're
It's
playing
at Purdue.
at
That's
Purdue.
a trap.
If
Let me
that's a
put it
night
this way.
game-
I think in that 3-game stretch they go 2-1. I don't know which game though.
Right. If you're playing at Purdue at night, that's like playing at Iowa at night. You'll
Yeah.
get upset.
Yeah.
You will get upset.
Yeah. Then they have a bye week, and then they're at Indiana,
That's a win.
at Ohio State. That's a loss.
That's a loss.
They have home game with UCLA. I couldn't tell you. That's probably
That
gonna
should be a win. You should win.
That should
You
be a win. That should be a win.
You
Then
should
they're-
beat UCLA at home.
They have their second bye week, and then they finish the year at USC. That'll be a loss.
That'll be a
That's
loss.
Home with Wisconsin,
Loss.
loss, and then they're at Iowa.
Loss.
So like 5 and 7.
Yeah,
They're
5,
5 and
6 and
7.
6, 6 and 6, 5
And
and
it's not
7,
that
right
I
in
don't
there.
think. I think Matt Rule's a good coach. He's a good enough coach, but it's his first year with a true freshman quarterback, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Raiola comes out there and just completely blows the doors off, you know.
Here's a crazy thought. I understand the schedules are different. I have a better feeling about Washington and a new coach and a new quarterback and new team than I do about Nebraska, because the dudes Washington are at least experienced, and he's going in blind with how many 5-stars have we seen? They throw them into the fire and they're not ready. Like, no
Yeah.
offense to Ohio State, but Lincoln Keenholz, how highly recruited was he? And
He was a
just
4-star.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but just totally not ready. And it's fine. They're highly recruited guys. They're just not ready. They need a year or two to really figure it out.
Dante Moore, UCLA this last year.
Dante Moore.
They looked great against bad teams, and they looked horrible against
Yeah.
good ones. So
Yeah, has all the tools, needs a year to figure it out.
Yep. FCS guy, $1.99 super chat. Moen After Dark are always great.
Oh, yeah.
Just
That's
for
my
you,
two, man.
FCS guy, there's my Montana Grizzlies hat. Go Grizz.
I'm like, which FCS team, FCS guy? Because I mean, can't like them all. Because if you're a Bobcat fan, you can't like the Grizz.
No, you
And
can't do
if-
that.
And if you're a fan of anybody, you can't like North Dakota State.
Yeah, if you're a fan of any of the Dakota teams, you hate all of the other Dakota teams. It's a really fun thing.
It's a really fun thing.
PJ Fleck is athletic director. Give Flugar a panic attack.
Oh, be nice to our friend Greg. Come on now. He's got enough worries going on with the Golden Gophers.
Look, he almost died when he thought when he thought Fleck was in Los Angeles interviewing for the job, and he turned out he was down in Cabo on his like honeymoon or something, like a vacation.
Jamie, my Twitter handle was at Moen After Dark. The exact same thing of the show. So actually, I should have been running this, but let's see here. Boom. Here we go. There's everybody's Twitter handle and the dates and times of their show. We'll get that out there. Guys, we've only got about 15 minutes left. We're going to end at 2 hours. So if anybody wants to get their comments in now, please get your comments in now. Obviously, we'll give a preference to Super Chat and members' comments first and foremost. Thank you, FCS guy, for that last Super Chat. Much appreciated.
I'm sorry, I was just laughing. Our friend Tony has the Golden Gophers going 12-0. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
peel
of
his
course.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brave. I love it. Who's playing
You know-
quarterback for you, Tony?
You know what? You know what? I'm gonna go outside after this, and I'm gonna raise the bullshit flag on that.
We still love you though, Tony. Thanks for
I
being
love you,
here.
Tony, but yeah.
Preseason champs. Don't sleep on Rutgers for real. I think they miss Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Oregon. Rutgers is much improved, but they are still recruiting against. They're still recruiting in Pennsylvania against Penn State, Ohio State. So Greg Schiano has done a wonderful job with that team, though.
They're very UCLA-ish to me in that they don't ever seem to do as good as you think they will. When they're like on an uptick, you're like, oh, maybe it's the year Rutgers really steps up, but they recruit way above where you think they should be because they're in New Jersey. They can pull all of those Northeast recruits. New Jersey has a ton of high-star recruits. Like they have all the tools to do well. And like you said, I think Schiano can actually get them into that mid-level of the Big Ten.
I like it. I believe they could, but they need to improve on their passing game because they could run the ball on everybody last year. They just couldn't throw the ball on anybody last year. So
That's all right. They'll take that Minnesota quarterback that wasn't any good, and he'll be a superstar. That'll make Greg real happy. Austin Clackamanus. Tony Lawson again. 4-8 Purdue is a loss. Bold talk. I'm telling you what, if that's a night game at Purdue,
and you're ranked.
I'm taking Purdue.
Yes.
I am taking Purdue in the points. Don't sleep. They've got super magic at Purdue at night games.
I'm going to listen to the Ohio State guy on this because
I hate Purdue at night. I hate Iowa at night.
For that reason,
automatic losses. Automatic.
I'm assuming I've heard the legend of the Purdue spoiler makers, and I assume they are your version of the Curse of the Desert with anyone going to play the Arizona games.
I will let you know this. The worst one is Iowa at night. If you got to go to Kinnick at night, it's a loss. It's a loss. And
that's Big 12 fans.
Wave,
that's Arizona. Don't go to Tucson at night.
Yeah.
Tucson at night is
one of those things where they'll have the worst team in the world and they will beat you 48-0.
Yep. Ask Oregon what happens when you go down to the desert at night with a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback.
It never ends well for anyone.
Doesn't go well.
Have fun, Big 12. You'll learn what that's all about.
I'm so glad to not have to play them. Trust me, for that reason.
New conferences, Big 12, 23 Arizona, AQ 22, TCU, Utah, KSU, 21 Cincinnati, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Utah, BYU. 2021 was a great year for the Big 12 new teams.
Is that assuming his AQ scheme or the at-large?
Yeah, that's where he got the AQs.
Okay.
Or that's where he got the
numbers.
The 9 schools. Yeah. That makes sense.
I was like, I don't know how you end up with 5 teams in the at-large because I don't think they were all ranked that high, but they were in their previous conferences. So.
Yeah, because that was the year 2021 when 2022 Utah went to the Rose Bowl. They were like a top 8 team, I think it was, and top 9. They were like right in. They were definitely in the top 10 with like TCU, and then no matter what, the automatic qualifier. So they were the highest ranked of the new Big 10 or new Big 12. Yeah, 21 would have been a great year. How weird is that seeing like Baylor in 2021 and where they were this last season?
Yeah. Dave Aranda was up for NFL jobs, and then he barely kept his job this year.
Yeah.
Another super chat from our friend Ryan Willie, Wisconsin Badger. Minnesota will go 3-9. Fleck will be canned.
No.
Man, I had them 7-5, 6-6. I thought they'd get a couple wins.
Minnesota?
Ryan is less bullish on
what?
the Gophers.
No, you had Minnesota at 7 wins?
Optimistic. I think 6-6. I think's fair.
I think
they're going to win some games. They're going to lose some.
They might be the 18th best team in the conference.
I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because we have like Tony and Greg. We have a few Golden Gopher fans that have sold me on the.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, Greg calls him the Greek rifle, but our friend Tony, more perhaps
He's
realistic.
not even there. The Greek rifle's gone.
He called him the Greek squirt gun. So
yeah, the Greek squirt gun's at Rutgers now.
Yeah, he's at Rutgers. Like,
hey, Bo Nix proved you can almost win a Heisman throwing checkdowns. Don't you discredit that?
Oh boy.
Well,
I mean, you can do that and then not have anybody show up to your pro day. So
yeah,
they had
too many Oregon fans in here, which
I
don't think. Yeah, I don't think there are any Oregon fans in here, but Bo Nix is really good. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
FCS guy, North Dakota State opens with Colorado. What's your thoughts? Yes, I'm a Bison.
He's a Bison. Nice. Let's go.
You know what? If this were North Dakota State like 3 years ago, they'd win by 50.
Yeah. North Dakota State a few years ago would have a legit shot, but Colorado is recruiting at an insane level. And I understand their on the field wasn't great last year. It was like the total roller coaster watching a Colorado game. When the play worked, all of their 5-star crazy talent showed up, and you're like, holy crap, that play would have worked against anyone. And when it looks bad, it looks really bad. I think a lot of that is smoothed out year 2 Colorado. They're going to be very tough going into a new conference. Big 12, like, I don't know if they'll win the conference, maybe not, because it might take a year more, but Colorado has legitimate talent, and they believe in playing for Dion.
Yeah, I'd like to see North Dakota State move up to the FBS at some point, I think Colorado has this one.
There was some crazy thing that, like, other than Sam Houston, who has already moved up, basically it was like 90-something% of the FCS national championship participants were from the Dakotas or Montana.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you I understand there's a gap between the two and there's reasons to be in one versus the other, but they all could easily be mid-level G5 teams. Like no issue. Any of the Montana or Dakota teams.
The FCS has the exact opposite of the FBS, where all the national titles are in the South, and the FCS, all the national titles are in the North.
Yes.
And, the Dakotas and then the Big Sky schools, that's where all the national titles are, for the most part. Like, I think Villanova has one, which is random.
Tony Lawson, I don't see a loss on the Gopher schedule, followed by Tony Lawson Super Chat. I don't see a Wisconsin conference win.
Whoa. Have you seen Wisconsin's schedule, by the way? I'm going to run through this. This is Wisconsin's schedule.
Luke Fickell's a good coach.
Go for it.
Yeah. Here you go. It gets brutal quick. Home with Western Michigan. That's a win.
Yeah.
Home with South Dakota. Should be a win.
Wait, South Dakota or South Dakota State? Those
South
are not
Dakota.
the same.
South Dakota. But both are good.
Win.
Both are really good. Should win.
South Dakota State's legit.
Yeah. South Dakota State would beat them.
Yes.
Then they're at home with Alabama.
Ooh. Oh no.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Then they get a bye week.
Kalen DeBoers.
Then they get their bye week, and then I kid you not, they're at USC. That's a loss. Home with Purdue. They should beat Purdue.
That's a win.
Sorry, Tom.
It's a win.
Then they're at Rutgers.
That should be a win.
It should be.
I think that would be a good one. That would be a good game.
Then they're at Northwestern. That should also be a win.
Should be a win.
Wherever Northwestern is playing their games. Then they're home with Penn State. That's a loss. Then they're at Iowa. That'll be a loss. Then
I think those are both toss-ups.
But it's at Iowa. I think that matters.
Penn State, we need to see more out of Drew Aller, see how he develops.
Yeah, I just think their defense is good enough to shut them down, though.
I do, but it's at Wisconsin, right? That's at home.
Oh, it is at Wisconsin. Yeah, they might be.
Yeah.
It's not the best on the road as it is at
between
home.
Iowa and Penn State.
Yeah.
Those should be losses for Wisconsin.
Should be losses.
It should.
But I'm with Moen. I'm with Moen. Like, Drew Aller outside of Happy Valley is not the same quarterback.
He's even at Happy Valley, he's had some rough games.
And then they get their bye week, and then this is how they end the year. Home with Oregon. That's a loss.
Ouch.
At Nebraska. It's probably a loss, right?
No, that's a win.
You think it's a
That's
win?
for him. Yeah.
It's tough.
And then they finish at home against Minnesota. That's a win.
That's a win.
They can win 8
I got
games.
them at about 5 losses.
Yeah, they should win 8 games.
About 5.
I don't
Look,
see anything wrong with that.
Luke Fickell's a good coach, and he's got Mike Vrabel on the sidelines now as an analyst. Mike Vrabel's a good coach.
But he's not a coach, though. He's just a dude hanging out there. That's my problem.
Okay, he's a dude hanging out there.
He's a dude hanging out there who can talk to
Washington
them about NIL.
Yeah. That's like Washington saying, oh, Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick are going to be hanging around the program. Like, yeah, they might stop in. They're not on the staff. It's not the same.
I understand it, but Mike Vrabel and Luke Fickell are very close. They're practically best friends, so he will be there a lot more often.
I'm like, I don't know what the rules are. They can't recruit. All he can do is hang out with the current players. They can't reach out to recruits. Like,
yeah, but if he just happens to be there when a recruit comes to visit,
yeah, it's true.
that can happen. Thank you for the super chat, Tony. I'm sorry that we found wins for Wisconsin in the conference.
Man, Ryan and Tony just have at it with the super chats. We appreciate it, of course, but you guys are relentless.
Here's a good one. If the G5 distributes CFP money unequally, likely, might we start to see schools drop down to FCS? I don't think so.
No.
I think only if there's a G5 consolidation or the House versus NCAA. Basically the big ruling on if they're going to have to basically give all this money to previous players that didn't receive NIL, et cetera, et cetera. If that becomes untenable for some schools who are already operating at break-even budgets, that may be a reason to drop down to FCS. But unless that ruling comes out a certain way, or there is G5 consolidation, which was my idea for Washington State, Oregon State, I didn't necessarily see them getting into the ACC or Big 12. I thought they should make a super G5, but it doesn't seem like any of that's on the horizon. So I don't see anybody dropping down. It's a big pay reduction.
To drop down, Idaho's the last team to do it, and I think the only one to ever do it. Which is, Idaho had to reduce. You have to reduce your scholarships from 85 to 65?
That was like 50 or 60, something like that.
Yeah, you have to reduce. You have to reduce your the number of scholarships, so you lose players. You can't pay your coach what you were paying them because you have to save money and get things going right. You're losing. I think Idaho started losing out. They were in Conference USA, I want to say, or the Sun Belt. Anyway, they've been at a few conferences. They had to go independent in that time. So you start to kind of lose a little bit on that, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap. And then you when you're reducing scholarships, how can you recruit, right? So I don't see anybody doing it. And there's still a rumor that they're creating another G5 conference. Did we forget about that? The WAC or something like that is going to come back or something? There's still talk of schools moving up and having their own conference. So
no.
Tony Lawson, Minnesota has dominated the series with Wisconsin. 62 wins, 63 losses, 8 ties. Poor officiating in 63 games, obviously.
Obviously.
And then Ryan Willie comes back with the Badgers will be Bama, Iowa, and Minnesota.
Ryan, I tell you what, I will come to Camp Randall and give you a 24-pack in the parking lot because you can't have beer in the stadium if they beat Bama as a thank you.
Yeah,
I
but
will buy you a keg if they beat Bama.
Oh, okay.
You will give so much love from Washington fans.
I'm going to let you guys know that you can't be doing the 24 rack of Natty Light on them. They actually
no.
Good beer.
Hey,
No. I was gonna get him a
Pacific
kegerator. I was gonna get him
Northwest. We got the
I was
good
gonna get him a
stuff.
kegerator, a Heineken.
I don't know how I don't understand or know Midwest beer culture, but we're kind of snooty. We buy the good stuff up here.
Okay, we do here too. So it's a lot of
All right.
New England IPAs.
But if I can get Yingling,
Oh no,
God,
polite pass.
Yingling's so good.
We'll bring you some 8% IPAs, a 24 rack of them. Just
There
for
you go.
Yeah,
There you go. They'll like that.
some local
There you
Red
go.
Hook brewery
More for your money.
or Georgetown. We'll go to the Georgetown brewery.
Yep.
Yes, we have a neighborhood called Georgetown out here in Seattle.
Beating Iowa is setting the bar pretty low. From Tony Lawson.
Did you guys see the
I
video of the guy who's the punter, the 6'7" punter who's committed to Ohio State?
Yeah, the
From
Aussie
Australia?
punter.
And people are like, he screwed up. He's supposed, if he wants to actually play, he should have gone to Iowa.
It's true. I mean, you can't say it's wrong.
It's not wrong.
Ray Guy Award winner,
Thank you for the super chat, Tony. You and Ryan Willie will just have to continue this one offline. We're going to get one more in here. Aller was actually really good outside of OSU Michigan, but yeah, that was obvious. Yeah, but he wasn't playing anybody outside of OSU Michigan. So
He didn't even look good against West Virginia. I'll just be honest. That's his first start, but he didn't look good there either.
let me get this. I have to get this one in here. The Midwest beer of choice is Pabst. This is a lie. Hipsters drink Pabst, and people who like chip beer drink. you know,
Sure.
oh,
Pabst used to just be the cheap beer that wasn't Bud Light, so you bought it.
it's hipsters who think they're working class who buy Pabst.
I'm
And they
like
drink
out
it
here.
until they extol the virtues of it, and Pabst is a shit beer. I'm sorry.
Out
it's not
here,
good.
the hipsters drink Rainier, or as we like to call it, Ronier.
I just threw it in chat if you saw it there, Becky.
Yeah,
PNW favorite for our generic beer, Rainier beer.
Rainier beer. It's water. It's cheap. It's water, and you can play beer pong all day with it, like you can with Pabst.
It's not half bad either.
Not bad. Kind of tastes like Coors Light, a little bit more flavor.
Hey, here in Columbus, the hipster bars, you're going to find them drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon. And they make
as long
sure
as
they
we're
have
not-
it in a Pabst glass so you can tell that they have Pabst.
Wasn't that like a joke on South Park, where if you're white, like if you drink Pabst Blue
White
Ribbon,
trash,
white
you're in
trash.
trouble when
Yeah.
you drink Pabst. Yeah. I
As
got a
long as
buddy
we're not
that's all he
doing
drank.
now, tall boys and Natty Ice. That's a next level
Now,
low.
Natty Ice, that's a West Virginia, Southern Ohio right there.
I'm
Natty,
like,
the Natty
I
rack
always-
on the shoulder.
Shout out to my man Timothy Green out there. I know you got some Natty Ice in the freezer right now.
I always buy the tall boys, and I always get them like a White Claw. Lame.
I live like 2 miles from a craft brewery, so I get all mine craft brewery. But, if I drink beer, it's $18 a 4-pack. So
yeah,
I don't drink beer that often.
I usually do a cider, and I have a tasting room here, like about 3 blocks from my apartment that I go to. It's called Locust Cider. They make this amazing, like they have a chai cider. It tastes like apple pie.
For context, Becky is in downtown Seattle and can go literally anywhere she wants for beer or brewing. Yeah. Normal people don't have those kind of fancy.
I know. I'm a half a mile from like 4 different breweries, but is what it is.
Yeah, I see another one here.
He's just clarifying. The Pabst remark was a joke, by the way.
No, he wasn't. He was joking.
Hey, we're not judging you, but
I'm just telling you, Midwest hipsters.
Look, we just found out on Monday that they don't allow beer inside Camp Randall. They don't serve it.
Yeah, no, the premium section gets beer.
The premium section gets it, but
which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. It is Wisconsin. If I go to Wisconsin, I could throw a rock and hit a drunk about 6 times. And I probably only threw it like a half a foot.
Hey, I'm not judging. When it's that cold out, all I would do is drink an ice fish too.
Yeah. That's all my brother does. He lives in Milwaukee. That's what he does all the time. He just goes fishing and drinking.
Well, we learned that Becky's brother is a drunk who likes to fish.
He's not a drunk. He just
2 hobbies that go well together.
He likes his craft beers. He's kind of a hipster.
Good to see you, Jeff. We're actually just wrapping up here. I'm going to give final thought. Let you go first, Becky.
Final thoughts. CFP stuff. Pay attention. I think we're going to have a lot of info by Friday. Things are going to be resolved as far as everything goes. If you're a Big 12 fan, breathe. If you're an ACC fan, breathe. Be patient. Let's see how things play out before you go jumping off the deep end. That's my thoughts.
All right, Pickles, you're up.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Mo, and we talked about this with Becky. Would you possibly be free next Monday? Because I'm going to plug a little bit for our show, Big West Mafia, Mondays, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We've decided to do a what if series of college football where we go through crazy scenarios that happened in the past, reverse the outcome, and play them forward to today. And the one that we wanted to start with is what if every single BCS and CFP national championship game had the opposite results? What would it look like? Who would have championships? And I think it's an interesting proposition for you because obviously Ohio State was involved with several of those.
Yes.
2 of your biggest rivals.
So we will have to get with you offline. Maybe 2 of your biggest rivals. I will say the number of championships for Notre Dame and Michigan change based on this history. So perhaps if you're free next Monday, we can get into that.
I'll be there, but I don't think I could. I'd rather not win the national title than have Notre Dame and Michigan.
Well, we do have the Trash Talk Minute now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we let people. We'll read it.
Here's your
if that's
portion.
the what if. If that's the what if, I'd just rather not have the national. We've got 2 in the 21st century. I'll take the 2. and Michigan has none, and Notre Dame has none.
Well, I'll spoil a little bit of it. That spoils it for you. In this scenario,
Michigan has none.
Michigan loses one, but Notre Dame gets one. Here's your.
Come on, save it for the show. Save it
No,
for the
there's
show.
an
I'll save it
upside.
for the show. Tune in on Monday.
save it
That's
for
a
the
teaser,
show.
guys. That's
That's
a teaser.
Moen's tough choice. Who does he hate more for having a national championship? We're gonna
There
do
you
What
go.
If Big West Mafia on Mondays.
There you go. Tune in Monday at 8 p.m. Tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. for the Big 12 Mafia show with Nate, Jen Santinel, and Danielle Kelly. They'll be talking about Florida State's latest legal wranglings, as well as the college football playoff. We should have more solid info on Friday for the Big Freaking Friday show. So join myself, Nate, Wild U, and Immaculate on Friday for that. We go at 7 o'clock on Fridays. And then find Pickles and Becky on Mondays at 8 at Big West Mafia. I will be there this Monday to discuss my pick for who I would hate to have a national championship.
Nice.
So, other than that, we are out, folks. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We had over 110 viewers live. We had over 790 comments. Sorry we couldn't get to more. It's just been a hell of a night. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will catch you on the flip-flop.